Hello, and welcome to the 12th installment of Goss Reads Goss, Menace in the Goldilocks Zone. As you may recall, our intrepid hero is now traveling from Erba to Arborea, and actually has landed on Arborea and had his first encounter with the Arborians and some of their interesting customs. Mere introduction. So let's see. I don't think there's anything else to say, so if we will, as we have in the past, we'll read the last couple paragraphs of chapter 11 before we start with chapter 12. And so, trying to figure out, is this side good, or is this side better? I kind of like this side better. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Who you're trying to convince, Roger asked, me or yourself? Peregrine makes one of her eloquent gestures with her mouth and eyes, one that indicates an amused sadness. Myself, she concedes, and I'm having a rough time of it. Well, Roger observes, it is good to be prepared, especially since nothing on this trip has gone as planned. He turns to leave. Will we see you at the evening meal? Yes. It will be nice to eat under the stars again, Roger muses contentedly. Yes, it will, Peregrine agrees. Until then. Chapter 12. Wroughtvine. Strongbow. Actually, probably should be saying that Strongbow. Strongbow arrives after midday with his entourage, and no explanation for his tardiness. He opens every shipping container and paws through the carefully packed contents, questioning their authenticity until Roger, in exasperation, offers him a sample of the nectar gel. This appeases him, and after a perfunctory look at the sea salt, Strongbow certifies the cargo is safe for sale. For sale to who? Roger wonders as the portmaster departs with his brainless chorus. He recalls his friend Salt on Cerulia and goes looking for Forge Dan. He finds her working on the fuel synthesizer. Don't they have brokers on Arborea? He asks her by way of greeting. What's that? A startled Forge Dan replies. Oh, hello to you too, Admiral. Sorry, good afternoon. Roger remembers his manners. Strongbow has finished his inspection at last. Shouldn't we be looking for a buyer, someone like Salt on Cerulia? The captain finishes adjusting a valve and notes the pressure on a gauge. No, she says finally. To do so would appear overly anxious. As you are, she notes wryly. We have few goods to sell, and to appear too eager to sell them will drive down the price. No, Admiral, we must wait for the buyers to come to us. We must appear confident in the value of our wares. How will anyone know that we have any wares at all? Roger wonders in frustration. I assume Strongbow has brought his entourage. Oh, Dreadspawn, yes, Roger replies in irritation with the memory, and all of them repeating his every word and asking senseless questions. He has 5 in his chorus, does he not? Forge them asks as she attaches another hose to the device already festooned with hoses. Yes. That makes a total of 6, the captain remarks. And it is still early afternoon? Well, those 6 have more than ample time to tell another 6, if not 12, apiece, and those will tell another 6 to 12 apiece. By tomorrow, a good half the town will know we have nectar gel to sell, although a good percentage will likely be under the impression that we are here to buy nectar gel or sea salt. Still, the word will be out. So we are just to sit here and wait? Tie me up and throw me overboard now. Forgedom pauses in her tinkering and looks at Roger thoughtfully. I suppose there would be some value in going out and about, she muses. It would lend credence to the rumors. But you mustn't go looking for buyers, she admonishes. You must go looking to buy. You mean I should look for a larger vessel? Oh, strike's got no. Go out and feign an interest in trinkets and novelties. And don't take too much trouble to hide the fact that your interest is feigned. Do you have any trade credits? Do I have what? Roger asks. Credits, money, Forgedem explains. Let me see your tablet. Roger extends his upper right arm with the tablet strapped on. Let's see how well I remember my cerulean, Forgedem mutters as she touches a series of symbols on the tablet. Ah, here it is. Yes, a tidy sum. She releases his arm and points to the screen. That's how much you have in trade credits. Roger looks at the tablet. So I'm to spend this on trinkets? I don't understand. You're not to spend any of it unless you see something you really like, Forgedem replies. You want to give the impression that you are accustomed to the finest goods, so not purchasing anything you see will convey your good taste. In fact, it would be even better if you acted disappointed in what you found. Excuse me. So, Roger says tentatively, I am to go into town and pretend to be interested in buying something, but not actually buy anything. Yes. And that is going to help us sell nectar, gel, and sea salt? Yes. Roger ponders this for a moment. I think I'm beginning to understand. It's a bit like dealing with people on water who weren't in the dreads. You have to come at things the long way around. Yes, precisely, Forgedem replies. Now, you'll need an entourage. All important people in Arborea have entourages. What? Roger says, feeling ambushed yet again. I am not going to be trailed by a lot of chattering ninnies. Forgedem closes her eyes to slits and wrinkles her bewhiskered nose in amusement. Not an Arborian entourage, she assures Roger. We'll have to spare our crew for an afternoon so they can accompany you. A duty I'm sure they'll eagerly embrace. She pauses. You'd better arrange transport with Strongbow, she notes. Tell him you'll need it tomorrow afternoon. I'd best tell him we need it tomorrow morning, Roger says dryly. That way we'll have it tomorrow afternoon. Contrary to Roger's prediction, the transport arrives just before midday, technically still morning. Roger is further irked when he recognizes the trio staffing the transport, Treevine, Shadeleaf, and Greenbark. This, he thinks irritably, is what comes from handing out compliments as if they were seashells. Aloud, he says, Good afternoon, lads. Allow me a moment to assemble my entourage. He has an entourage, one of the Arborians noted. Roger doesn't bother with determining who. Of course he has an entourage, says another. He's an admiral. Well, he'll need an entourage if he's an admiral. The Mayor Urban crew dutifully assembles, which incites another round of commentary. Are they his entourage? They look like Mayor Urban's. They look like Sky Terrors. They do not. They look nothing like Sky Terrors. Well, they have long snouts. Yes, they do, but they don't have wings or long claws, and they're small, much smaller. Still, that long snout. What are they going on about? Burrowson asks as they climb onto the transport. A great deal of nonsense, Roger replies. Pay it no mind. He addresses the nattering Arborians. Excuse me, I hate to interrupt this fascinating discussion, but I would like to see something of your arts and crafts. Can you take us to a business offering such wares? It wants to see arts and crafts. There are a lot of shops down by the river. We'll take you to shops by the river, Treevine says to Roger. There are many artists down there. Lovely, Roger says. Take us to the river, if you please. To himself, he adds, and drop me in the water. There is, of course, another round of bickering about the best way to the river, but one is eventually agreed upon, although Greenbark indicates he still harbors reservations. They move through the spaceport, which is not at all that busy and populated solely by Arborians. Roger and his entourage seem to be the only outworlders present. It is much the same in the town, which Roger learns upon inquiry is called Riverside, because it is by the side of the river, Shadeleaf explains. Oh, really? Roger replies dryly. I never would have guessed. The river is called the Great Forest River, Greenbark adds, because it flows through the Great Forest. So why isn't your town called the Great Forest Riverside? Roger asks sarcastically. Why isn't our town called the Great Forest Riverside? Greenbark asked his fellows. Well, it takes a long time to say, Shadeleaf observes. Not succinct, Greenbark agrees. It's because there is a great forest riverside further south, downstream, Treevine informed the two. It was founded first. There is already a great forest riverside, Shadeleaf informs Roger. We couldn't call our town the same thing. It would be confusing. And unoriginal, Greenbark adds. Well, Riverside is certainly more original, Roger remarks wryly. He decides to tear himself away from the scintillating conversation and look at the surroundings. The Arborians definitely favor multi-story architecture, much of it open to the air. Roads and streets appear to be second thoughts in urban planning, as the transport is forced to wind its way through tunnels among buildings positively seething with Arborians. People move from one building to another, and even across the narrow winding street, via structures that remind Roger of the grips and rails on the freighter, only more elaborate. Very few people move along the ground, and if they do, it is only briefly before they once again effortlessly climb the architecture, grasping at the grips and rails with hands on all four limbs. Acrobatics are commonplace, and the Arborians definitely appear more comfortable above the ground than on it. The air, too, is seething with hundreds of simultaneous conversations. Roger's goggles display an endless stream of disjointed dialogue, and once again he wonders how hearing creatures avoid insanity. Although, he notes dryly to himself, the Arborians appear to be less successful in avoiding it. One conversation catches his attention. Hey, Treevine, what's that you've got there? Yes, Treevine, what is that? It's the Cerulean Admiral, Treevine replies matter-of-factly. We're taking him to the river. He's taking him to the river. That's the Admiral? Strange-looking fellow, I'd say. He's Cerulean. They all look like that. They aren't all Cerulean. Mare Urbans. Those are Mare Urbans. What are Ceruleans and Mare Urbans doing here? They're going to the river. Why? Don't they have rivers where they come from? The transport winds steadily through the streets, and Roger notices an abrupt change in lighting and architecture. Whereas the lighting of the streets thus far had been from artificial sources, even in the middle of the day, the lighting in this part of the town is softer, multi-hued, and seems to emanate from everywhere above. The architecture, too, is less formal and more organic, and upon Roger's closer scrutiny, appears to be made from trees and not metal and stone. Roger peers over his head and notices several hanging compositions of glass orbs, like the river glass he found on Mare Urba. These are arranged strategically under openings to the sky, and appear to be constructed to refract and diffuse the light into the open buildings and street. Roger notes dozens of them along the section of street alone. He gets the attention of one of his drivers. What are those? He asks Greenbark in wonder. What are what? Greenbark replies, puzzled even as he follows Roger's gaze upward. Those beautiful glass hangings. Roger points with an arm. What are they called? Oh, those. Greenbark makes a little effort to hide his exasperation. Those are old-fashioned skycatchers. Most of us want to replace them with modern lighting, but Broadtrunk likes them and insists on keeping them here in the old part of town. The mention of Broadtrunk gets Shadeleaf's attention. Broadtrunk is a capable chieftain and very rich, Shadeleaf observes. If he wants to keep the skycatchers, he must have a good reason. Oh, I'm sure he does, Greenbark agrees quickly, and then more quietly. It's just that no one seems to know what that reason is. The air above them abruptly opens to the sky, and they find themselves on the bank of a very broad river, the opposite distant bank being bordered by very tall and leafy trees. The Arborian guides appear agitated, glancing upward as if they expect something to fall upon them at any moment. That, Treevine gestures across the river, is the Great Forest. He turns the transport down a road that appears to parallel the river under a tunnel of apparent vines and branches, whereupon the Arborians all relax. There are many galleries along the river, Treevine reports. I'm told it's to take advantage of the natural light. There is a lot of natural light here, Shadeleaf agrees, and a lot of skycatchers, Greenbark adds. That last remark catches Roger's attention. Do they have skycatchers for sale? All three Arborians appear nonplussed and speechless for once, as if this was the first time they even heard of buying a skycatcher. You can't buy these skycatchers, Treevine says, finding his voice. They're part of the buildings. Yes, Shadeleaf adds, we can't be dismantling the buildings. Why would you want one anyway? Greenbark asks. Don't you have lighting on Cerulia? I want one because they are beautiful, Roger replies impatiently. Do you mean to say that all the skycatchers are in use? Weren't they made by someone? They were made by someone, Treevine agrees, but no one makes them anymore. There's no call for them. Yes, why make something no one wants, says Shadeleaf, posing what Roger decides to treat as a rhetorical question. We have the lights, Greenbark adds, unnecessarily. Let me off here, Roger orders abruptly and extricates himself from the transport. His entourage scrambles to follow. Where are you going? Treevine asks, startled. He's getting off and walking, Shadeleaf reports to no one in particular. What are we supposed to do? Greenbark asks plaintively. Yes, Treevine asks Roger loudly as he's moving away. What are we to do? Wait there, Roger replies simply. He says we are to wait, Greenbark says vacantly. Roger and the Mare Urbans walk along the narrow street, colorfully lighted by the skycatchers on the riverside wall. It is soon apparent that the more thriving shops are located above street level, as they encounter many vacant and empty spaces along the ground. Roger eyes the well-worn grips and ladders that rise from the street at intervals. It would take me half a day to get up there, he observes in frustration, and the other half to get down. I fear our expedition is a failure. We could go up and bring you things to look at, Burrowson suggests. But you don't speak Arborean, Roger points out. They'll think you are robbing them. Yes, I suppose you're right. Mr. Roger, it is Forreston, waving him forward. There are some lovely things in here. The young Mare Urban is standing in front of one of the few occupied spaces at ground level. When Roger approaches, he sees that there are, indeed, many lovely things. Hanging from various hooks around the shop are what appear to be small skycatchers, artfully made from molten glass, some displaying swirling colors and patterns not found in the traditional examples. Also displayed are flasks and bowls made from the same melted and shaped glass. Conspicuously absent are proprietors. Hello, Roger says tentatively. Is anyone here? Roger's goggles indicate the sound of some movement above him and to his right. A grizzled face appears upside down from behind a shelf. It's midday meal. Great force primeval. What is that? A piece of scarlet fruit falls on the floor as the face disappears. Hello, Roger says again. I'm Roger from The Arborean shopkeeper drops to the floor in front of him and retrieves the fruit. Sky terrors take me. It talks. The Arborean remembers the fruit and wipes it off before taking a bite. Yes, Roger says patiently, and I was saying that my name is Roger and I come from Cerulia. May I ask your name? It wants to know our name. Should we tell it, dear? Yes, dear, the creature replies to itself emphatically. We should. I am Wroughtvine, he says to Roger finally. Hello, Wroughtvine. I am Roger from Cerulia. Yes, so you said. Do all Ceruleans repeat themselves like that? Wroughtvine takes another bite of the fruit, smearing vivid red juice on his face. No, Roger replies succinctly. Well, what does it want, dear? It hasn't said. Do you suppose it is hungry, dear? We haven't much fruit. No, Roger says again emphatically. I am not hungry. I have come to look at your glass. It is quite beautiful. It has come for a glass, Wroughtvine reassures himself. It doesn't want fruit. Your glass is quite beautiful, Roger observes again, hoping to steer the conversation away from fruit. Did you make it yourself? The great burning mountains make the glass, the old Arborean says, looking at a particularly iridescent hanging. I help it express its spirit, or did until people preferred the modern polymers. He holds up two badly scarred hands. These haven't coaxed spirits from the glass in years. No one wants the glass anymore. You say the burning mountains make the glass? Yes. The great smoking mountains to the north make the glass, and the river carries it to me, Wroughtvine says. Only I can no longer accept the gift. Oh, Roger says, finally comprehending. You use river glass, like that found on Mare Urba. The old glassworker gives Roger a keen look. Have you seen Mare Urban glass? Yes, Then you know its spirit is fierce. The Arborean looks down at his hands. If I could just hold Mare Urban glass one more time. I have some Mare Urban glass, Roger tells him. He has mere urban glass. The old creatures light up and holds out his hands. Show it to me. Let me see it. I don't have it with me, Roger says a little defensively. It's back at the spaceport. Wroughtvine deflates before Roger's eyes. You could come back with us, Roger assures him quickly. I can show it to you then. Leave here? It wants us to leave here, Wroughtvine muses. We have not been out but to the market for an age. Yes, the shop. Who will mind the shop? What's to mind? No one comes by, not even Broadtrunk comes any more. Well, then it's settled. The Arborian addresses Roger at last. We'll come to see your mere urban glass. He reaches above his head and disappears. Well, Roger says a bit confused, I did want to look at your glass first. Wroughtvine reappears with a fresh tunic and a haversack over one shoulder. It wants to see our glass first, he says as if the thought had never occurred to him. Well, show it to it, dear, show it to it. He removes the haversack and moves under some of the hangings to pick up a closed wooden tray, which he sets on an empty space on the shelf. He opens the tray to reveal 6 vividly colored miniature skycatchers. These, he says, are made from mere urban glass. I can believe that, Roger says as he looks at the pieces. The colors are so pure. Wroughtvine picks one up and holds it to the light, which seems to light fire in the colors. Astonishing, Roger could not help saying. I'll take the 6 of them. It wants all 6. But does it have the money, dear? Will not sell on credit, dear. No, not again. I have money, Roger assures him, holding up a tablet. It has one of those things, Wroughtvine remarks. Where's ours? Where's ours? You left it in the haversack, dear. Yes, I remember now, the haversack. He rummages through the bag and produces a tablet. Now they're 1,000 apiece. Roger consults his own tablet. Very well, he says simply. Very well, it says. Very well. We have a rich cerulean here, dear one. A rich one. Perhaps it would like something else. Do you like bowls? Wroughtvine looks at Roger expectantly. Those are certainly lovely, Roger says, indicating the 2 on display. Do you have more? Do we have more? Do we have more? We certainly do, don't we, dear? Wroughtvine climbs up again and returns with a stack of 3 deep wooden boxes. These, he says to Roger, are made from Arborian glass. He opens the top box to reveal a bowl of approximately 30 centimeters across, made from glass containing swirls of metallic gold, copper, and silver. The second box contains a similarly sized bowl made of glass shimmering with amethyst and pink. The third bowl features black stripes that evoke the images of varying fantastic creatures, depending on the angle it is viewed from. What sorcery went into this? Roger asks, viewing the third bowl. The images appear to move. That's the spirit in the glass, Wroughtvine says reverently. I'll take the lot, Roger announces. It'll take the lot. Another 500 apiece. Oh, we're having a good day today, dear. A great day. Wroughtvine produces a bale of what appears to be dried grass and packs it in the boxes and bowls, as well as the tray of skycatchers, then secures the lids with twine. That should get them back to Cerulia in one piece, he observes with satisfaction. Now to see your mere urban glass. He picks up his haversack. Don't you want to be paid first? Oh, yes. Payment. We need payment, that we do. Wroughtvine brings his tablet to Rogers and effects the transaction. There, we have our payment. Let's be off. He begins to gather Roger's purchases. Oh, Roger stops him. My mere urban friends here will carry these for us. He turns to his entourage. Could you please take these back to the transport? Of course, sir. Burrowson gestures to Larson, and the 2 pick up the boxes to follow Roger, Wroughtvine, and the rest of the crew back to the transport and the waiting trio of Arborians. The 3 on the transport and Wroughtvine don't even acknowledge one another on the way back to the spaceport, though Treevine, Shadeleaf, and Greenbark are clearly uncomfortable being seen with him. For his part, Wroughtvine appears comfortable with his own company, carrying on a running conversation with himself as they move through the town, remarking on who used to live where and what ancient structures have given way to newer, less impressive ones. He pauses long enough at one point for Roger to ask him what the latter feared may be a delicate question. You seem to be alone, Mr. Wroughtvine, which is unusual for your people in my experience. Alone? Yes, we're alone, Wroughtvine admits. Alone St. Arborflower, my mate, got sent down the river. All my friends got sent down the river before her. I still talk to her, but she's not here. I'll have to answer for her too, don't I, dear? You say she and your friends were sent down the river? Roger asked, perplexed. Who sent them, and why didn't you go with them? Oh, I'll be joining them soon enough, won't I, dear? Yes, soon enough, soon enough. That small exchange appears to put Wroughtvine in a pensive mood, and Roger, still unenlightened, refrains from further inquiry. All parties, with the possible exception of the pensive Wroughtvine, are visibly relieved upon their arrival at the spaceport and Fordham's freighter. Roger pays the transport workers, and they speed away with an alacrity they had hitherto seemed incapable. Burrowson instructs the remaining crew to take a box each to Roger's cabin and accompanies Roger and his guest as they follow their bearers. They encounter the captain, still fussing with the fuel synthesizer. I thought you weren't going to actually buy anything, Forgedem says, eyeing the boxes. Unless I really like something, Roger reminds her, and I really like those things. Would you like to see them? No, we'll have time for that later. She turns her attention to the Arborean. And this is? Pardon me. This is Wroughtvine, Roger replies. He made the things I bought. He has come to see my river glass. Wroughtvine, he says, turning to his guest, this is Captain Forgedem. This is her vessel. The two nod wordlessly to one another. How's the synthesizer coming? Burrowson asked the captain. Oh, I think I've coaxed all the efficiency out of it I can, Forgedem says resignedly. It will work better with a source of liquid water instead of gleaning vapor from the air. We will leave you to ponder your contraption, Roger says, gesturing to Wroughtvine to follow. They enter the hold, and Wroughtvine looks around wistfully. I've spent a good many hours in Mer-Urban freighters, haggling over the Mer-Urban glass, he says sadly. There was a time when I could not buy enough. People would pay anything for a Mer-Urban skycatcher. Then the Irradian lights came. People could stay up past sunset. No one wanted skycatchers anymore. No, dear, they didn't. No, I couldn't buy enough. Now I can't buy any. A friend of mine once observed that technology spreads like a disease, Roger recalls soberly. Those words grow more apt every day. The two walk on in a sad and brooding silence. Here's my cabin, Roger announces. And I see your fine goods have been carefully stowed. If you'll give me a moment, I will find the river glass. Wroughtvine looks around the cabin. 'Tis a small space to travel so far in. Well, yes, it is, Roger agrees, finding the container with the glass. On Cerulia, we live in the open air with the sky above us, so space travel is very difficult for us. I use this room for sleeping and spend most of my time out in the hold. Here we are, he says, about to open the box when Wroughtvine stops him. Let's look at them in the sunlight, the old Arborean says, closing the container lid. Let's let their spirits shine. Oh, of course, Roger says, mildly taken aback. Would you like to carry them? Yes, I would, wouldn't I, dear? Wroughtvine takes the container reverently. Yes, I certainly would. The two walk back to the hold in silence and stop only when they are outside and out from the freighter's shadow. Roger holds the box so that Wroughtvine can open it and remove the round pebbles of glass. He takes them out one at a time and holds each to the sun, turning them in the light, eyes intent. He then holds each cupped in his two hands as if praying over them. He finally returns the last of the glass to the box and closes it carefully, head bowed, and a hand left on lightly on the lid, as if in benediction. So, he says at last, when do we eat? The abrupt change in tone has Roger feeling wrong-footed. We usually eat the evening meal after sunset, he says eventually, not wanting to be rude and ignore the question. I take it you would like to join us? Yes, we would, wouldn't we, dear? We would very much. Thank you for your invitation. But I didn't. Roger looked at the old Arborean. You're welcome, of course. Do you have a place I can nap? We usually sleep in the afternoon, don't we, dear? Yes, dear, we do. You can sleep on the platform in my cabin if you like. Yes, we would like that, wouldn't we, dear? A nice, quiet cabin without the neighbors nattering all the while. Yes, we would like that. Roger leads Wroughtvine back to his cabin and stows the river glass. For his part, Wroughtvine climbs under the platform and curls up. Could you get the light before you leave? We sleep better in the dark, don't we, dear? Of course, Roger says, touching the panel that plunges the room into darkness. Roger encounters Forgedem on his way up the freighter. Where's your Arborian friend? The captain asks conversationally. He's taking a nap, Roger replies vacantly. Oh? The tilt of Forgedem's head indicates she is puzzled by this information. And he is evidently joining us for the evening meal. I see. When no further information appears forthcoming, Forgedem asks, does he know anyone looking to sell a vessel? Oh, I doubt it, Roger replies. I sincerely doubt it. Okay, well, that's the end of chapter 12. Chapter 13 is called Broad Trunk's Folly. We can look forward to that next week. Thanks for listening.